We're going to be joined now by the Director of Policy and Communications at the New York Housing Conference, Brendan Cheney. How are you, Brendan?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. Thanks for being here. I wanted to reach out to you and talk to you about what's going on with affordable housing here in New York and what's happening that we are faced with a budget shortfall.
So in Mayor de Blasio's latest budget, which he put out sort of after the effects of the pandemic were starting to be felt in New York, he made a lot of sort of budget cuts anticipating less revenue. But one of the cuts he made that I think we think is short-sighted and unnecessary is about 40% cut to the city's housing budget. And this is on the capital side. So this is the money the city uses to build new affordable housing or, rehabilitate older affordable housing. And so it's paid for in the capital budget. And he proposed to cut 40% this year and about 40% next year. Our analysis of that cut suggests that it could mean 21,000 fewer units of affordable housing are produced this year, in total this year and next year.
So does that mean that housing that's currently being built or that's expected to be built or that's already up and running and people are living in it, are all three of those areas going to lose funding?
No, I mean, we can talk about the sort of the effects of the pandemic and how that's affecting the incomes of buildings that are in existence, but this is money that would be going to build new projects or, preserve projects that are, preserve housing that is in existence right now. So there might be buildings that need repairs that won't get the repairs, this year or next year, but it's new construction. The way HP funds their projects is they'll in June and December is when they do most of they close in their projects. So they have this pipeline of projects, and they sort of many years out, they're looking at what projects they want to do this year, next year, and sort of in the future. And then they will close in the project where they'll agree to fund the project. They'll agree to finance it. And then after they do that, then the project can start construction, or if they're preserving it, then they can start construction on the rehab if they need to, or if it's just financing to sort of stabilize the projects, the existing buildings financing, they can do that. And so what this means is, I think the way HPD is saying it is that this money will delay the projects. And I think we feel like it might delay them. It might mean they don't get done. It might make them more expensive over time. But I think without this money, it's 21,000 fewer units, at least in this year and next year. And again, construction might take 18 months or 2 years. So it's fewer units in the future when we need them now and we'll need them in the future.
And this was a big part of the mayor's, claim to fame, that he created this large pool of affordable units, that helped tick down the homelessness with families specifically. Can you talk to me a little bit about how that's going to affect the homelessness number that's changed?
The mayor's plan was a big affordable housing plan, the biggest one the city's had. And I think at first, a lot of advocates felt like there wasn't enough. It wasn't going to the lowest income New Yorkers, and it wasn't doing enough to help homeless New Yorkers. And then over time, he did change the plans that it was targeted more towards homeless New Yorkers and helping homeless New Yorkers, have somewhere to go, to leave shelter or to sort of stay housed. It will mean fewer housing that could be available to homeless New Yorkers. One of the other things we saw in the budget, by the way, is not only did they sort of cut money or move it out to future years, but in some of the programs that are most helpful for homeless New Yorkers, they cut money from those programs, from supportive housing funding and the new construction programs that target the lowest income New Yorkers. And so that's going to have an effect as well.
This sort of like dovetails with this a little bit. You also sent me some notes about the unemployment stats, correct?
Yeah, so I've been looking at I think there's been a lot of talk about the national unemployment stats. And so I was looking at the New York State unemployment stats. And, since the start of this pandemic, 2.5 million New Yorkers have filed for unemployment benefits in New York. And that number's starting to go down. So that go down every week. They track this every week. But, I think that's sort of it sort of shows us just how big the economic impact has been of this pandemic.
Yeah. So your organization, it really works to educate people about affordable housing. What would you want to have people take away from our conversation?
We are in a time where the city government has less money than it has in the past because of declining property taxes and income taxes. But I think what we need to make clear is that that money doesn't really impact the housing budget, that the capital budget is paid for with bonds, that they go out and they buy bonds and they pay back these bonds over time, right? So this is a really great way to spend money that can buy you things that you need now and will need in the future, and pay for it over time at a time when we don't have a lot of money in our, in the operating budget. And so this is a great way to keep people working and to, get affordable housing, and when we need it most and when we'll need it in the future as well.
I mean, I think that's why the unemployment numbers sort of dovetail with this a little bit, because, obviously affordable housing is going to be just as even more important now as people might be struggling to have income. I mean, that's just clear.
Yeah, exactly. And so, we're pushing to make sure that the mayor, doesn't decrease his program, sticks with his program. Now's the time to stick with it. Another thing we're working on, though, for the short term is, trying to get the federal government to provide more rental assistance for all these people who are unemployed. I think there's just going to be a big need to help people pay for rent and pay for their housing until the economy really fully rebounds. I mean, so we've been pushing a lot for federal rental assistance.
What's the reality? And okay, so what does that look like? Federal rental assistance. What does that look like, and what's the likelihood of that happening?
So the proposal we're supporting would provide about $100 billion in rental assistance nationally. And so it's part of the big package that the House of Representatives passed a little while ago that would be part of sort of a fourth COVID stimulus. The House passed it. As to its, how likely it is to be supported in the Senate, we're not sure. I think we're trying to get everybody we can on board. It sounds like the Trump administration is supportive of another stimulus. I think what we want to do is make it clear just how important rental assistance is, just how important housing is, and just how dire the situation will be without federal support, just how many people are unemployed, and without unemployment insurance benefits, if they run out, or even with them, there's going to be a lot of people who have trouble paying their rent.
I agree. Brendan, thank you so much for joining us today.